told me when I was updating it, it told me what version I had, but then of course, if it dropped off, and then I don't remember what it said.
It was 8 point, I think it's 8.7 is what I wanted to say.
That makes sense.
I think that's what it was.
I wonder what they did different. I wonder what they did, because they updated it a couple of months ago.
They update them all the time. I mean, the
Yeah.
security stuff and what have you. Here it is, about GoToMeeting, 8.7. All right, I'll tell you where it is. And anyone else listening, they can check too. You go to, at the very top of the little panel where it says GoToMeeting, there's a tiny little arrow at the end of GoToMeeting
Right.
menu. You click on that, and then you go down about 3/4 of the way. It says About GoToMeeting.
Oh, right. Okay.
And you
Got it.
click on that, and it'll tell you what version you have.
So I have 8.70 build 7155. Is that what you have?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right. So let's. One last thing for Jake before I check in with anybody. But Jake, you saw that thing that came from Jan Mannerite and Mike Scott, right? I forwarded it on earlier on today.
On the ADT.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw your response and her response to you, so I'm going to post it, but I'm just going to forget the July version, the July meeting.
Thanks.
She said that's full already.
Thanks a million. Okay, and I tweeted it out. So.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll try to get to it tonight or tomorrow.
No, there's no hurry. There's no hurry. But I just want to be sure we do it, because I'm going to be asking them to advertise our nutrition meeting, and I don't want any pushback from them. So I'm trying to be really nice to them right now.
Did she give instructions on how to? I know she said you have to sign up. Did she give instructions on how to do that? I didn't read the whole thing
If you
very
go,
closely.
if you go through, there's a link at the bottom on how to. There's a link on that email.
Okay. Are they all the same? If you hit one, you hit them all, or are they each one of them different? Do you know?
They're all the same.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Len.
Mm-hmm.
So, let me see. I'm writing names down, and I'll start with Len.
Hello, Rick.
Hello, Len.
Len should always be at the top of the list.
Len should always be at the top of the list. Len, how much crap in the basement?
Oh, we've made a serious dent. Today, there's an organization called Big Brothers, Big Sisters.
Yeah.
You've heard of them? Yeah. So they do a free pickup. So I have a 2-car garage, and we moved stuff from the basement to the garage, where we filled up one full side of the garage.
Okay.
So that's a lot of stuff, and they came and just picked it up this morning.
Okay.
Very good.
And
some good news too. We had a week ago. We had an offer that we accepted, but then the guy just disappeared. He just fell off the face of the earth. Nobody could contact him. So then, just yesterday, we had another showing, and this guy put in an offer, and it was $9,000 more than the other guy. So we accepted that offer, and that's going ahead full speed.
All right, hey Len, you better get the rest of the basement cleared out quick.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, they wanted to close August 11, but we said no, that's a little too quick. So we said September 7. So that's what it's going to be.
Because they want to get the kids into school, right? It's all about getting the kids into school.
Right.
Well, yeah, that, and also the guy was going to Portugal for about 3 weeks. So he said, look, I can either do it, before I leave, which would be August 11, or when I get back, which would be September 7.
I see.
Yeah.
Are you downsizing? Are you downsizing, Len, or moving up?
Downsizing and simplifying. I don't want to own anything anymore, Jake. I'm just going to rent.
Okay. So right, so you don't have to worry about the maintenance. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We need to do the same thing.
All right,
in my house.
let's get moving along here. I know Len's on, I know Jake's on, I know Dennis Correa's on, who I'm finally going to meet tomorrow for lunch. And Tebow is on, who I already met for lunch. And who else is called in?
Hello, Rick. This is John Schofield in Toronto. I haven't been on for quite a long time.
You have not. We welcome back. We look forward to talking to you in a minute.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
And who else do we have?
Eric Bookbinder.
Oh, on the phone. Eric on the phone, huh?
Hey, Eric.
Yeah, no power at my house today.
You're kidding. Well, how come?
They're putting in solar, and they had to put a whole new panel in. So all that 100-year-old electrical connections all had to go.
I see. No, I thought maybe it was a storm or something.
No, all quiet on the Western Front here.
Okay. Well, we've had a lot of rain, and overnight, and it looks like we're going to start getting some more. Maybe during this call, it's building up again. For us, it's been pretty humid here, which no one's used to.
Nothing but fires here.
Nothing but fires. Wow. Can you see any?
No, and it's clear today, but a couple of days ago, the air was all smoky.
All right.
Where do you live, Eric?
That can't help with your shortness of breath that you've been having.
Where do you, Eric, tell them where you live. Somebody asked.
Oh, I live in a little house in Orinda.
Not so.
It's 11,000 square feet.
A not so little house. It's
How
called.
many square feet? How many?
11,000. 11,000.
Holy cow.
35 rooms. Well, I sort of won the lottery. About 20 years ago, I had a company that I sold, and I sunk all the money into this house.
Huh. Wow.
It is magnificent. It's a house. It's a Spanish style house from the 20s, and it is magnificent. Gorgeous grounds. So
it's right on the Orinda Country Club, the 9th fairway of the Orinda Country Club. It's on a downhill slope, and it has a water system that goes from a fountain up above the house, through pipes underneath the house, through 4 ponds and a wishing well, down to the bottom and pump back up again.
Unbelievable.
Jeez.
Do you
I can't
use
even imagine
much
a
of
house
the
that big.
space, or?
I rent it all out. There are 13 of us living at the house now.
Wow.
That's how I pay for it.
Right. Interesting.
It actually was built. It was built as a family compound. So originally it was the main house and 4 apartments. So when I bought it, it had 6 kitchens.
Huh.
Wow.
Who built it, Eric?
It was built by a man and his wife named Fagel. They had a bus and truck company. Do you remember the old newspaper delivery trucks? They all kind of looked the same, and they were completely different than everything else. That was one of the things they built. And they also built buses that were all over the country. And if you Google the name, Fagel, you'll find lots of information about them.
Wow. Well, all I can say.
Yeah, they actually lived in Ohio, and then they built this plant out in Oakland in the 20s, and it went bankrupt in 1930. So after that, the family all moved away, but they kept the house, and they used it for 2 weeks a year. At Christmas, for 2 weeks, they would come out and the whole family and stay at the house, and that was it. There was a caretaker that lived here the rest of the time, and that was it. The house was empty.
Eric,
How long have you been? How long have you been there?
We bought it in '98.
Oh, okay.
Eric, remind me sometime or call me, and I got to tell you the story. I don't think I did. I got to tell you the story about the cab driver that brought me back up. Eric is the auxiliary parking for Oakland Airport. So I got to tell you the story, Eric. You'll love it. You'll love it.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's see. Who else is on the telephone that hasn't identified yet? Anyone else? I see one person, but if you don't want to tell us who you are, it's okay.
No, Larry Fish is here.
Oh, it's Larry Fish. Okay. Now we know. Okay.
No, he's on the computer though.
Oh, no,
Larry,
I wasn't on the. I was on the computer. I thought you saw me.
No, I didn't see you.
yeah, we do. We do see you. Well, there's still somebody on the telephone.
Okay, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. You can chip in at any time you want. Just listen in, enjoy, learn, and we'll go from there. And somebody else just joined us. Who just joined us?
Believe it or not, it's Jeff Ledoux.
Jeff Ledoux. Okay.
Hey.
I'm gonna be out your way this time next week. I'll be in Vermont. I'll be in.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah.
Too bad you can't make it all the way to Maine.
Well, I'm gonna visit with Professor Bill. I'm gonna meet him for the first time, which I'm really excited about, and I'm gonna visit with him at his brother's house in Albany, Vermont, and then from there I'm going up to my buddy in Canada, who's about 50 miles north of Bill. And
Well, you have a good time. The weather's been pretty nice up here.
Good. All right, so let me tell you who I see on the call. If I've missed anybody, you'll let me know, and then we'll just check in and see who needs some time. So I see Len Sierra, Thibaut Lincecum, Dennis Correa, Jake Hannum, John Schofield, Eric Bookbinder, Larry Fish, Jeff Ledoux. Have I missed anybody? Okay. So let's start with Len. Len, do you need any time to talk about anything today?
I could give a 2-minute update on my status.
Okay, we like that. It looks like if we don't have anybody new, we're going to have some plenty of time. Thibaut, are you with us? Are you with the kids?
I'm here.
Great. Do you need some time?
I'm happy just to listen today, but if we have some time, I could talk about my new experiences with pain medications.
Oh yeah, no, we'll come to you. We'll come to you. We'll check in with Len, and then we'll come to you. And then that way, if you want to run off and work with the kids after that, play with the kids, then you can come in and out. So we won't miss you so much. Dennis, anything for you?
Yeah, a couple of things about exercise.
Great. Jake, you want to talk about your fatigue issues?
We can. I'd also like to ask a question about blood laboratories.
Okay. John Schofield, you can give us an update if that's okay by you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sounds great, Rick. Sure.
Okay. Eric, anything for you today?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, we'll come back to you. Larry Fish, how about you?
I keep muting myself so I won't be obnoxious, but I have to remember to unmute myself. So I mean, I could give a little update if there's time at the end, but it's not.
I think we'll have. Everybody wants to speak, but I think we should have time as long as we're mindful. And Jeff, you would like to give a little update too, I think.
I would indeed. Thank you.
Okay. So let's kick off with Len.
Okay. So I had blood work done recently, first time in 3 months since I went on drug holiday. I was taking Zytiga and Lupron for 3 months, and I was hoping that it would take my PSA down to undetectable so that I could go on drug holiday, which was the plan of my oncologist. But instead, it started in the opposite direction, started going up, which he attributed to Zytiga flare. And then it went back down. And at the end of 3 months, I was at 0.17. And I just said, you know what, Doc, I just need a break from this ADT. So, yeah. He said, all right, I wish you would have stayed on a little longer. But so so the last dose I stopped taking Zytiga in early April. So then I had blood work done just last week, and the PSA went from 0.17 to 0.21. So it went up slightly, but meanwhile my T level went from less than 4 to over 400. So I figured that was a pretty good trade-off. And I'll be seeing the oncologist tomorrow to see what he thinks we should do next.
Wow, that's an amazing recovery of your testosterone.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
When I took a holiday several years ago, mine never went very low. It was always around 30 or 40 or 50, but it only got up to the 200s, and that took about 6 months. So you had a pretty quick response.
I did, yeah. And the last time I was on
Congratulations.
holiday, it went up over 700.
Wow.
But that was the end of 7 months.
Well, you're one of those manly men.
I was going to say, Len, it's either Italian blood.
Manly men.
It's
It's
either that Italian blood or it's Joanne's lasagna. I don't know which.
Little of both.
How long have you been on ADT, Len?
Well, going all the way back to my diagnosis in May 2014. So except for a 7-month break, drug holiday break somewhere in there.
Okay.
It's been, more or less continuous.
Right.
So about 3 years minus 7
Yeah.
months.
So you're off everything right now?
Yes, at the moment.
Okay.
And I'm a Gleason 9, and I had two iliac lymph nodes involved in seminal vesicles, and possibly bladder invasion.
So what's your thinking, Len, when you see Dr. I guess you'll see Dr. O next week, did you say?
No, it's actually tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. When you see Dr. O tomorrow, what's your thinking?
I would be open to another therapy, but I don't think I'd want to go back on ADT. Like maybe if he wants to put me in some kind of clinical protocol with, I don't know, some type of immunotherapy. I'm not even sure what would be appropriate for me now.
I think most of the therapies, most of the trials you're going to find are going to require that you're on Lupron. Because if you're not, it's very hard for them to judge the effectiveness of the of whatever they're testing.
I could go back on Lupron. I mean, I guess I'd like to have, as long as it's okay with my oncologist, I wouldn't mind another 3 months and see what happens to the PSA.
Mm-hmm.
3 months of.
Do you have a threshold in your mind of how high you'll let it go before you start treatment again?
Well, I wouldn't like to let it get as high as it did on my first drug holiday when it went up to close to 11.
Okay.
I was getting a little nervous when it was getting that high because I started out with like 0.19 at that time and went to 11.
Len, do you do scans at all?
Yeah, that's the other thing. He might want to do a scan. He mentioned that 3 months ago when I saw him. I don't know if he'd consider a PSA of 0.2 to be enough, high enough for a scan.
Well,
Would that? Sorry, what kind of scan? Would that be an MRI, you mean, or a PSMA or something?
Just
PET scan.
PET scan, yeah.
I think he mentioned Axumin or Axumin, however you pronounce it.
So the Axumin is an F18. It's a more advanced type of F18 PET scan, which is a good thing to do, a really good thing to do for somebody like yourself that's got lymphatic involvement, but you don't see anything else. And, you know, normally if you get a scan and your PSA is as low as yours, and you don't have a history, then you're not going to see anything. But yours is a different situation. We know where the metastasis has been seen, and so doing a scan right now would allow us to determine whether the metastasis has increased in size or reduced in size, etc., etc. Of course, this is the first time you would be doing the Axumin, so you know it may not be a good comparison to the technology from last time. But I do think that Axumin is a good option to discuss, and I do suspect that they would see something. It's a different situation to a man that's got a 0.2 PSA on, say, recurrence from surgery, and they've never seen anything before.
Right.
And how long do you have to be off of ADT before you can have the scan?
You don't have to be off ADT.
Okay.
But it's Len's choice to do intermittent therapy, which you know, for a lot of men is very popular. You stop taking the drug so you feel much better, and you wait until your PSA hits a certain level, and then you go back on the drug again. Whether you go back on just the one drug, whether you go back on a combination of drugs. I mean, now we think that Zytiga, when taken early, like in Len's case, is very, very effective. That's what was just the results that were just released at the ASCO meeting.
Okay.
But you know, in Len's case, the benefit of taking a drug holiday is really positive on quality of life, and provided that you keep a close eye, as Jake said, you know, where's your threshold, what to go back on, and you know, there probably isn't that much harm that can be done. So,
right,
it's a good way to go.
I might want
Can Zytiga does Zytiga prevent or you know, prolong hormone resistance, or you know, forestall hormone resistance?
I think that's a really good question, because I don't think we really know what the impact is on hormone resistance from early Zytiga, because there just haven't been enough studies. I mean, in the past, you never started taking Zytiga until you were hormone resistant.
Mm.
And this study that they just did, and I can't, maybe somebody knows, I can't remember without going to look at it. I forget what the condition of the men was, that their demographics were when they started on the Zytiga. I think it was, I think that they didn't necessarily have to have metastasis. And I think that they were certainly not hormone resistant. Does anybody remember from the study?
I think you're right, Rick, and I think that you just had to be high risk.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
But you could be hormone
So
sensitive.
John Schofield's question is very pertinent, but I don't know that we have that information yet, John.
Well, weren't there two studies done pretty much simultaneously, Latitude and I forget the other name?
Yeah.
And I think one was for did have metastatic people, I believe. I may be wrong about that. They kind of ran the two simultaneously and reported the two simultaneously.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think I've got some notes on it somewhere.
I think, Larry, it's one was the Latitude, the other was a continuation of the Stampede, I think.
Yeah,
that's it.
Correct.
And they were was talking about instead of docetaxel. They used abiraterone with Lupron, and it seemed to have been just as effective or more effective in skipping the chemo.
That's right.
As the early chemo. That was one of the results, and I forgot the latitude result.
Yeah.
It was similar.
Oh, here it is. I just found I found some notes that I made when we discussed it at the time, but I don't know. The average PSA on the Stampede, the average PSA, the average age was 67, the average PSA was 53. They were nearly all newly diagnosed. So if they were nearly all newly diagnosed, then 52% had METs, 28% had lymphatic involvement. Sorry, 52% had bone METs, 28% had lymphatic involvement, and 20% had no metastasis. So that would suggest that in the Stampede, it was an arm of the Stampede trial. The Stampede trial has loads of arms. I don't know how many. It's a huge trial with lots of different arms.
Right.
The latitude, I didn't jot anything down on the latitude about what the condition of the patients was when they went on, I'm afraid. And there were 1,199 patients. They followed up after 30 months. But I don't have a note of what it was, so I can't tell you.
I posted a link to the study on the Facebook page, Rick, about a month or so ago. I think I posted something about it.
Right, it's there's stuff on there, and we can.
It's definitely online.
We can Google it. Len will Google it as soon as he's done, and he'll come back and tell us in a minute and tell us what those latitude people are. Len, I have a question for you. Did we ever find out what the strange smell was?
Oh, no, he never heard of it.
Okay. Okay. Some may remember that Len complained of a strange smell a few weeks ago.
It's more like a sensation, like a burning sensation. Well, yeah, I guess it is a smell, like an electrical burning smell.
Right.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember that.
Whatever it was, I have not had that experience in the last few months.
All right. Well, look, let's keep moving along. And Len, tell us how you do with Dr. O.
Yep.
And you know, we'll whatever you do, we'll be supporting you, whether you go back on or whether you continue to extend your vacation.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, who is Dr. O? That's not Gary Onik, is it? Or
no, Dr. O is at
William OH.
Mount Sinai, OH.
Yeah.
oh, okay, right. And sorry, I don't know, Len. I'm not on enough to know your back. Did you have a primary treatment when you were diagnosed, or?
I had 86 gray of IMRT.
Okay.
Well, but that wasn't strictly primary. Len basically didn't want any intervention for a long time. It took us about a year and a half, 2 years to convince him.
Okay, right.
So he was just doing Lupron until we finally pressured him enough. Dominic, God rest his soul, and myself lent on him hard enough that he decided that he would consider some IMRT. Is that fair?
Right.
Is that fair?
That's very fair, yes.
Summary?
And I'm very, very grateful to you guys for that.
Okay. All right.
But keep in mind, it was my own oncologist at the time who was telling me, don't do it.
Right.
Right.
Okay, guys, we're moving along. Thibaut.
All right. I've been trying since February to get into this clinical trial. It involves bone marrow transplant and then bipolar androgen therapy. And after nobody in my family was a suitable donor, the chief researcher agreed to modify the trial to allow for non-relative donors, and they're working on that. They're not making very quick progress, but it's still in the works. But even after that gets approved by some board, then I have to get approved by the donation board or something to get to use the registry, and then after that they would actually get the donors that are good enough matches to send in blood samples. They do some kind of test where they combine my blood and their blood and see what happens, and then choose what goes in. So it looks like we've got kind of a long pipeline before I actually get started. And, it could be another couple months. And in the meantime, my PSA has been doubling every 2 months for almost a year now. I was on Xtandi until a few months ago, and Dr. Antonakis said, sometimes once the Xtandi stops helping, it starts actually hurting. The cancer somehow learns to use the Xtandi as fuel. And so he suggested I stop. So I stopped, and then my doubling time changed from 2 months to 1 month. It's doubling every month now, and my PSA is up to like 200, and I'm getting new bone metastases, and I'm getting increasing pain, and so I'm getting a little worried, and I asked Dr. Denny Marakis if there's anything I can do now that won't disqualify me from this trial, and Dr. Antonakis suggested that I try taking abiraterone. Since, the Xtandi might have been slowing down the growth, maybe abiraterone will help as well. So, so I'm going to see Dr. Antonakis tomorrow morning, and he'll give me the prescription, and then we'll see how long it takes the insurance company to start approving that.
Okay, a couple of things. Let me just go over your PSA history again, Thibaut. So you're up to your levels at about 200 now?
Yeah.
Because I have a record that you were at 10.5 back in November of 16. So it's really just shot up since November of 16, right? If you need abiraterone, talk to me, okay?
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Just one
Thibaut.
sec, Jake.
I'm sorry.
Just let me just finish a couple of things here, because I'm just taking some notes. So as of 7/17, your PSA doubling is down to 1 month, and you're at about 200, and you're considering abiraterone. Now, have you been sequenced yet? I know we've had this discussion before, but
yeah, they checked my regular cells, and they checked my prostatectomy tumor, and they found nothing actionable.
And when you say your regular cells, was that a liquid biopsy, or was that from a solid tumor?
That was just well, I can't remember. I think it was just like a saliva thing. It was the color company's test.
Yeah, no, but I think what you have to do, that's the germline test.
Yeah.
That when you see Antonakis tomorrow, I just had this same conversation with John Shane, because his doc at Sloan Kettering has been very reluctant. There's just no downside in them sequencing you. And rather than you sort of shooting in the dark as to the next place to go, the best that can happen is that we get some more information if you haven't been sequenced if you haven't somatic test.
The tumor from my prostatectomy.
Yeah,
They checked that.
but when was that?
That was like a month ago, 2 months ago.
When was your prostatectomy?
The prostatectomy was 3 years ago.
Well, there you go. They need a current sample. I mean, they should be taking a current sample. I mean, we talk about this all the time. What the condition of your disease 2 years ago is not the condition of your disease today. And
well, I don't have really big lymph nodes.
I'm sorry, I missed that. You're breaking up.
All my lymph nodes are less than 2 centimeters. I don't know if there's anything that they can get to very easily.
You don't have any solid tumor?
No.
Okay, but what you do if you don't, and so if there's no solid tumor, but you've got a PSA of 200, the likelihood is
I've got lots of disease. At the time I didn't when we were doing the sequencing.
I'm sorry again, I missed what you said.
Well, I have lots of bone metastases. I don't know if they can sample those.
Oh, well, that's right. So why don't they can sample the bone metastasis? And are they in places like your hips or your pelvis or your femur, or are they all in your spine?
I think I've got, I might have one in my hip.
Well, you need to, I'm going to say the same thing to you that I said to John Shane about an hour ago, which is this. Don't ask him, tell him. Walk in there and say, I need my tumor sequenced. I would like my tumor sequenced. And I'd like it done from a solid tumor sample. So, and if you're not happy doing a solid tumor sample, second best, let's do a liquid sample. But I want it sequenced with something that's recent.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something actionable in there. There may not, but there may be. And what we learned from, and Antanarakis knows this, as does Sam Denby. They know that 3-year-old sample is not going to be necessarily the same as doing a current one. And the only way it's going to happen is for you to insist on it. And it may yield something, it may not. But, 10-15% of men, it does. They say that 95% of men show actionable genes, or 90%. I mean, I think that's a rubbish statistic. But, there's a small percentage of men where it does show something. And it may make a difference. And there's no downside. I say there's no downside. Yes, you've got to have your tumor. You're going to have your tumor biopsied. But the guys, I don't know if there's anybody on the call that's been through a bone biopsy, but the guys that I've spoken to say it's a little uncomfortable, it's not painful, it's just weird. It feels like them tapping on your bones, but it's not painful. And let's get it sampled, get it down there. There's a question as to how good the bone samples are, but because of the calcification in the bones. But I mean, I know a bunch of guys that have had good bone samples. They've sent them down, and if the bone sample isn't good enough, send down a blood sample. It's not as big a panel, but it might show something, and it has most of what you would get out of a solid tumor panel.
Yeah, I'll talk about it with him tomorrow.
I mean, So,
Rick,
yes.
Derek, I had a liquid sample done in Berkeley, at the Sutter Cancer Clinic, and they have an agreement with Guardian. They do it for free.
Okay.
So, and it was just that simple.
Right. So and foundation medicine. I mean, you try Guardant. Or you've also got you've got foundation medicine that we have a relationship with, and they most of the time are not back charging the patients at all. And if they do want to back charge you, talk to me. I'll talk to David Marshak, and we'll work with you to get it covered. But don't sit on it. because we just see what happens is, it gets done. And unfortunately, by the time people get around, it doesn't get done. The doctors don't order it. And then by the time they do, and we find what's actionable, it's too late. Look what happened to Albert. We pushed Albert, and it just, by the time it came about, he was too long. So I really, if it were me, I'd be wanting it done yesterday. So,
I'm just wondering, Rick, would Thibault be a candidate for LU? Was it LU 177? Aren't there some clinical trials going on with that?
There are, but I don't know. I mean, I know there are in Australia. There are some opening up right here.
Everything I find around here was for people who had already done chemo.
Right.
Okay. Right.
So I was going to wait till I had my chance to talk. This is Eric, but I went to a function. It wasn't really a seminar on Saturday that was put on by the Cancer Research Institute.
Right.
And they had what they called navigators there. And you fill out the form, tell all the drugs you've taken and blah, blah, blah. And I have my guardian information and my foundation information. And he put it all in the computer. And he said, okay, you got 100 studies, trials in the nation that you're eligible for. 2 of them are in the Bay Area. Do you want to travel? Most of them were in Houston. But at any rate, it was just that simple. It took him 5 minutes.
Well, I'm pretty excited for the bone marrow transplant. I'm just worried that the cancer is going to grow too much time. So I'm just doing what I can that won't disqualify me for that trial.
Well, that's why we're, on the one hand, the bone marrow transplant sounds great, but on the other hand, there's a lot of other things that you can be considering, and rather than hang around to get the match, why not look at some other things? I mean, let's just say you came up with an actionable gene for pembrolizumab, Keytruda, that might be a much better option. Easier on your body, less dramatic, and
that's true.
So all I'm saying, I'm not saying don't do the bone marrow. What I am saying is let's get the right information. Let's get the most up-to-date information.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that Dr. Antonarakis originally was planning on getting a new, biopsy on one of my lymph nodes when we were doing that. And, but he was concerned that they weren't going to be able to find a good place to get one sick. Wanted to result, and that's why I used the old sample.
If they can't biopsy a lymph node, then let them biopsy a bone sample. If they can't bone sample, let them do a CTC. And don't let them send it out internally, because it can take 6 weeks. Have them send it to Guardant, or have them send it to Foundation Medicine, where there's a 2-week turnaround.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in the meantime, I'm taking tramadol every day, which is pretty good. Extended release. It keeps my pain low enough, and the side effects are minor. And then every now and then I tack on a Percocet when needed. The worst side effect of the pain meds is they make it difficult to urinate.
Mm-hmm.
I actually stand up. I just stand there and nothing comes out. I have to sit down and really focus on relaxing, and then I get a trickle.
I was just going to, Jake, you wanted to ask a question. You wanted to ask Thibault a question.
Yeah, but I think I realized he had answered it in his initial I wanted to ask him why he stopped the Xtandi at only 10.5. But then I realized he said that his PSA was doubling at every 2 months. So
Yeah, starting in September 2016, it was doubling every 2 months.
okay.
Until I stopped taking it, and then it doubled again over the next 2 months, and then it doubled over 1 month.
I wonder if because enzalutamide is similar to bicalutamide in some ways, just a stronger version of it. And I wonder if you might benefit from what they call the anti-androgen withdrawal syndrome, where you stop it for a few months and then start it back up again. Sometimes you're resensitized. I don't know if there's been any studies on that, but it might be worth asking about.
I don't think there's been studies with enzalutamide stopping it and you're dropping. It's certainly true with bicalutamide, but enzalutamide is a very different drug, Jake. What I would say is that there are men who fail enzalutamide and then go on to other treatments and come back to enzalutamide and get some time out of it later.
Right.
It's not like stopping enzalutamide. Now, in a certain sense, that's what Dr. Antanarakis was saying to Thibault. Maybe there's some sort of a flare effect, and if you come off of it, but it certainly wasn't true in Thibault's case, as we just learned. So, Tanarakis is sort of saying what you're saying. Maybe if you stopped it, you might drop. But I haven't heard any studies. That was the first time I think I'd ever heard that mentioned. So you're not off base at all, because obviously, one of the best doctors in the country is thinking the same thing that you're thinking. But we haven't seen any evidence for it, and it didn't work for Thibault. So
should I start charging for my advice?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just keep your rates down for us, will you?
I will. I promise.
So I'm going to keep moving along. Thibault, please get yourself sequenced, will you?
Okay. Thanks.
Len was kind enough to post the ASCO trial in the chat window. For those of you who aren't on the phone, who aren't on the web, it was for men that were hormone naive and who may not have had METs, it appears, when they started, and it was very effective. I don't want to get into the results right now, but it was very effective. So thanks for doing that, Len. Appreciate it. Okay. Dennis Correa, tell us about exercise.
Yeah, I've been trying to sort this thing out for some time here, and trying the man plan and other types of exercise, and it's really a fine line of finding the right amount of exercise and the right type of exercise to battle this fatigue and stiff legs and stuff from the Lupron. And I'm starting to see a little difference. It really, if I'm just very sedentary and spending a lot of time in the recliner or taking naps, it just kind of feeds the fatigue for me, and I feel even more tired. But if I can get up and keep moving around, and I've just started this new exercise thing with an exercise trainer at our little fitness center here, and starting to see a little bit of better results, feeling a little bit more energetic and not quite as fatigued. Still have a little stiffness in the legs when I get up from sitting, but the less I sit, the less stiffness I have too. So I just want to share that with everyone.
I think it's very pertinent, Dennis, to the conversation some of you may have heard me having with Jake when we when you signed on earlier earlier this afternoon. And what treatment are you on now? I know you did the chemo and then you
Yeah, Lupron.
and just on Lupron.
Yeah.
Well, I want to let Jake interrogate you on this exercise. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jake.
Oh, geez, you put me on the spot, Rick.
That's right. That's why I'm putting you in the hot seat, man. Go on.
So what kind of exercises do you do, Dennis?
Well, other than my pleasure exercises like golf, I play 18 holes twice a week. And I was just seeming very, very fatigued by the time I would finish and succumb to going home, taking a shower, and then laying in the bed and taking a nap for a couple hours, you know. And then I get to feel really fatigued for the rest of the day. And then when I'd go to bed at night, wouldn't sleep good, and the fatigue was still around. But I'm doing now, I just started with a trainer at our village center in our community. We've got an exercise room, and I've contracted with a trainer. And specifically, I told her I've had a little problem with balance and problem with stiffness in my legs. So she ran me through a assessment of different types of exercises and assessing flexibility and strength and so forth. And now she's laying out a program where I can start at a level that's to my, based on my condition that I'm in right now. And she knows that of my, my mets and my spine and femur and stuff like that. So I just had another workout with her today, and probably finished up about an hour before this call here. And really, it kind of energizes you. It just kind of gets the energy going. So that's basically what I'm doing. And she's just starting with things like squats and sit-ups and push-ups, balancing, a lot of different balancing, unbalanced stuff like how would you describe it, a half a pipe or line or something thing. You stand on it and try to one foot in front of the other and try to not fall over. And
Right.
She does that for a minute or two, and then another balance exercise and work kind of working all the muscles and stuff, and then stretches also. My hamstring's going to need work because I'm extremely tight in the hamstrings. I can't sit out, put a foot out and leg out in front of you and put it flat on the floor and bend forward at all. So it's hopefully we'll see some difference in that. It's too early to tell yet.
Have you had any more problem with cramping since we spoke last, Dennis?
No, I just had that one bad episode, and I really think it might have been the dehydration issue.
Good.
I played golf that day and hadn't had as much fluids and stuff as I really needed to have for the conditions and the workout and everything.
So let me come back to Jake. Jake, why don't you tell the group a little of what you told me about your fatigue issues on enzalutamide?
Right. Well, I've been on enzalutamide now for about 6 months. First 3 months, 4 months, I didn't have any problems at all. But then lately, and it's not every day, but a lot of days, I just feel really ragged out. I wake up and I'll be up for an hour or two, and I start feeling sleepy again. So I'll take a nap and I'll feel okay for an hour or so, and then I start feeling sleepy again or tired, and just no energy whatsoever. So I don't know what it is. I mentioned it to my oncologist, and she just kind of shrugged her shoulders. So I don't know. I mean, it's what Dennis described is kind of similar to what I've been doing. Lay down, take a nap, get up for a while, go back to sleep, take another nap. And it's not every day, like I said, but it's some days. And like today, I was feeling kind of ragged out, but right now I feel okay. So I don't know, and I haven't done anything other than sit here listening to this program. You know, you guys talking. So I don't know
I know
what
there
it
were
is.
days when I just would have that same level of fatigue and tiredness, and know that I just had to fight it a little bit and get up and go for a walk. And sometimes just a 15, 20-minute walk would do it. Just, not a really rapid walk, but just good rate.
Jake,
Right.
Jake, I did not pay Dennis to say that. And I neither, because he said that, am I necessarily buying him lunch tomorrow. I just want to tell you.
Geez, I thought I'd work on you a little bit.
Because those of you who overheard our conversation, it's exactly what I said to Jake. Get on that exercise bike. Jake doesn't like to go outside the house too much. Fair enough. Get an exercise bike. Get a treadmill. Get something that you can make yourself do some exercise on. Mix that in with a little bit of those man plan exercises, and then tell me that you're still feeling highly fatigued, and then we'll come up with another plan. But when you don't want to take any drugs, when you don't want to do any exercise, and when you're complaining about severe fatigue, there's nothing we can do for you.
I find weights are very helpful too.
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
Yeah.
I do have a set of weights. They're not very big weights. They're just a little, the kind you use with the arms.
Yeah, I think resistance exercise like that is very, can really help generate some energy.
So you know what some people do, Jake? I hate to tell you, is they'll sit on that exercise bike, they'll pedal away at a low resistance, and they'll be holding those weights and they'll be doing with their arms up and down, at the same time. Yeah, 2 for 1.
Mm.
You get a little resistance and you get a little aerobic at the same time.
I will take all that into consideration and take it to heart. Thank you, guys.
Jake, can I just add something? I had to take another call, so somebody may have already mentioned this, but you're on Xtandi, right?
Yes.
So my understanding is that generally, for most people, Xtandi is more tiring or fatigue-driven than Zytiga. Maybe it has something to do with the prednisone. I don't know. But,
right.
Yeah, you might want to consider switching to Zytiga and see if it makes any difference.
Well, I was actually thinking about that. And I was thinking about possibly asking the doctor about getting prednisone, because the original, I don't know if you know this, but the original testing for Xtandi included about 50% of the people that were on the test took prednisone or some kind of steroid anyway. I don't know if it was because of the medicine or they were already on it or whatever. So I might ask about that, and I might ask about the changing to Zytiga. It's just, it is working. It kept my PSA low. Was keeping my PSA relatively low. And it took a lot of hoops to go through to get my insurance to cover the Xtandi. And I don't want to have to rush that to go for the abiraterone, but it is certainly a consideration. And that's one thing I have been thinking about. Thank you, Len.
Okay. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
What did you say your rates were, Jake?
My rates.
Yeah. What did you say your rates were? You're telling us now about prednisone and Xtandi. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, if you read the study, they did say about approximately 50% of the people were on prednisone. So
it's Larry Fish. Does anybody have any thoughts about like what you eat on those days where you feel really exhausted? That like if you try to limit pasta, potato, carbohydrates, sort of eat less that day, that you can do more than. I used to find that like you want to lie around and do nothing. You get to have that fatigue days where I just can't get rested. And then I want to get something to eat, and I want to eat something, and then after that it gets worse, and then I want to take a nap, and then I wake up, and then I have no energy. But if I drink coffee and I try to push myself not to eat much, I see that I can really get a walk in and get going. So if I limit my calories a lot that day, does anybody notice that? Is this just idiosyncratic?
What has worked for me has been eating more often, smaller amounts, as opposed to the old standard. Fill your plate up in the morning, fill it up at noontime, fill it up in the evening. I try to snack on some good healthy stuff, a little chicken or stuff like that, or fruits and veggies in between the meals to keep my metabolism going.
Well, Larry, that's a really interesting question, and I think it's one you should definitely store up and come back with when Greta McCare does the plenary on July 31, because Greta's very knowledgeable about prostate cancer. I'm sure she's familiar with the drugs that are being used, and she would be a really good person to ask whether diet has any impact, has any effect on the side effects of some of these advanced prostate cancer drugs.
Well, I do know that if you eat something that has like high sugar, high carbohydrates, it kind of gives you a quick high, but then it gives you a quick low, and you have to be careful with that. That's something I found with me. I have a craving for that kind of stuff, and I know it's bad for me, but my body craves it for some reason. And when I indulge, I feel good for an hour or so, and then it kind of hits me.
Well, again, start thinking about some of those questions. Maybe even you can send them to me and I'll ship them over to Greta so she knows what might be coming down the pike in case she wants to do any research ahead of time. But I will say to you that she is terrific. She's just terrific. And the presentation that she does, that some of the guys have attended, is just excellent. And it's something you should definitely all try and attend, and tell anybody you think might be interested that they're welcome to attend. I'm hoping to get Dr. Steve to attend so that he can attack the studies and the work that she does in the same way that he attacked me the other week when I told him that I thought nutrition was relevant. He was of the opinion that nutrition is not pure science because it's not provable. So I'm very interested to hear what Greta's going to say to him when he says that. So it'll be a fun session, and I may be found guilty of stirring things up on that session a little bit. I'm moving along down. I mean, is there anything else, either Dennis or Jake, you want to add on the exercise issue for fatigue?
No, but I do have one or two other things, Rick.
Okay, we'll come back. Let you. Why don't you continue? But we'll only let you continue if you commit to try a little bit of exercise, Jake.
All right, then I'm not gonna commit to anything, so I'll be quiet. I just wanted to remind everybody that today is Prime Day.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
On Amazon, if you go to Amazon Smile and buy something and you've identified Answer Cancer as your charity of choice, they have a lot of good deals today. Just wanted to put a little reminder out for on Rick's behalf.
Thank you.
And only today. It expires at midnight today, so.
Okay, so buy today, gents. Buy today on Amazon. Tell your wife to buy what she's been thinking about for the last 3 months today. And make sure you're signed up for Amazon Smile. Jake, what else did you have?
Okay, on the Xtandi, my PSA in 2 months ago was 0.5. Last time it was 0.7. But the problem is, one time it was sent to Quest, one time it was sent to LabCorp. And my question was, is anybody familiar? And each time on the PSA test, they say PSA tests are not interchangeable and cannot be compared to other methodologies.
Right.
You know, one uses the Siemens method and one uses the Roche method. And I was just wondering if anybody has any experience or knows of any scientific study where they compare the two, and how far off are they? You know, do I need to worry about a 0.2 because it went to a different lab, or is that the beginning of it going up again?
Well,
I did some Googling, but I couldn't find anything about the
right.
two methodologies.
I really haven't. I've never actually heard a statistic, a adjustment factor between the two. But here's what I would suggest: if you can wangle it somehow, is to get tested in both labs within a day or so of each other, and see what they come back at. And that way, you'll have your own adjustment factor.
Right.
Because you'll know that this was the difference, and you probably hadn't changed much over a period of 24 hours. So if you can get yourself to both labs within a very short period of time, then you can make that adjustment in your own mind. I've suggested that to guys on the call before.
Well, that was my real question. Has anybody actually done that and been able to compare the two results? Silence means, I guess, nobody has done that.
No.
But that's a good idea, Rick.
I think that's what I would do. You know, and to be honest, even if it costs you $25 or whatever it is for one of the tests, because they won't cover it, it's worth it just to know what the adjustment factor is. I mean, I tell guys to do that when they're traveling. So you know, it's something that's worth doing when you're traveling.
Okay. That was it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think it's Eric that is popping on and off. And I think he just popped off again, and I really wanted to catch him, and I think he'll probably be back, because I'd love to hear first of all, I'd like to hear what he learned at this conference. The conference, by the way, is being repeated around the country, and it's being repeated virtually. So in September, you can sign up for the conference. Is that, Eric, is that you that just arrived?
Hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I was on before and no one could hear me. I'm yelling and screaming. Yeah, because by the way, on the previous thing, I did have tests done at Sutter and at UCSF within a day, and they were as much as 2 full points off different.
Wow.
Huh.
So,
what were the two labs?
Different labs. UCSF and the Sutter East Bay Cancer Center, which is in Berkeley.
Okay.
Do we know what protocols each one uses?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I know there's a WHO standard, you know, WHO, and then there's LabCorp uses Roche, I think, and Quest uses Siemens, or vice versa. And they all say they're not interchangeable, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But 2 points, that's quite a significant variation.
Yep.
Not 0.2, 2
So,
points.
Yeah, 2.0.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Wow.
And what sort of level was your PSA, Eric?
Oh, that was like one was 7 and the other was 9.
Okay, so that's a big variance when your PSA is so
In
low.
a percentage basis, yeah.
Right.
Well, I've been trying to get my oncologist. She takes my blood, and normally she sends it to Quest, but she's in changing phlebotomists like some people change their underwear, and and so they just they don't always realize they go to LabCorp kind of like automatically, and I'm trying to get her to stick with one or the other. I don't care which one, as long as she stays with the same one. But it's just kind of frustrating,
Oh, absolutely.
Eric, would you like to tell the guys a little bit about this seminar that you went to and who sponsored it? And I know it's available virtually. I mentioned it a couple of letters ago, and we'll push it out again. And also tell us a little bit about the 2 tests that they identified for you.
Okay, they're going to do 5 of these seminars. They did the first one in San Francisco, and the others are going to be in Chicago, New York, Tampa. I forget where the other one is. And so let's see, what was it? They had people talk, explaining how immunotherapy works, how it sensitizes the immune system and how they inject it. They spent a lot of time doing that. Then they had a panel of experts, and then they had a panel of patients. And that was the morning session. And then the afternoon session, they broke up into interest groups by what cancer they were working with. It was for caregivers and for patients, and none of the interest groups were ones that were appropriate for me, and so they said everybody else gets to network, which means all of us were left in this big room and you could talk to whoever you wanted to. So I forgot what they called him. Navigator. The Navigator. They had some forms. When you sign up for the program, they sent some. You could check a box if you wanted to talk to a navigator, and then they sent you a bunch of forms to fill out, which were basically your medical history pertaining to your cancer. And and when you went to the conference, they had 20-minute appointments set up, and you go in and discuss, treatments and what you've had and where you're going and what your status is. And then, as I said, he took all of my foundation and my Guardian studies and my chemical history of treatments and put that all into his program on his computer. And as I say, it came up with quite a few studies, all over the country, trials. And, then he said, well, let's look at the ones that are local to you. So he did the Bay Area, and there were only a couple in the Bay Area. There were a number of them in LA and a lot in Houston. So that was pretty much it. They were very helpful and easy to talk to, and I felt that the process was very well done. They weren't promoting anything. The conference was sponsored by pretty much all the big names that you can think of in the cancer industry, Pfizer and Genentech, and I don't know. They had quite a few sponsors, but that wasn't ever brought up, or it wasn't mentioned other than being in the program. So I felt that the best part of it was, going to the Navigator. He hasn't sent me any information yet. He said he'd send it early this week. So I haven't looked today since I didn't have any power all day. I haven't been able to look at it on the internet, but it's I'm looking forward to see what he found for me, and my plan is to take it to Dr. Agarwal and see what he thinks of it, and go from there.
So the sponsoring organization is Cancer Research Institute, correct?
Yes.
And Cancer Research.
What about them?
I'm saying that was, for those who don't know, that was the sponsoring organization who put the panel together, sourced the speakers, got all the sponsorships and what have you. And Cancer Research Institute is one of the oldest cancer immunotherapy nonprofits in the country. It was started by the daughter of the guy that did the first ever immunotherapy trial back in the late 19th century, I believe. I can't remember what it was for, or what the drug was they were testing at the time, but that's what it came out of this fellow's research, and it was the daughter that started it. And like I say, as well as if anybody wants more information, let them contact me. I'll also, if I can, I'll try and put something up on the website, at least for the next couple of months. I'll put it on the news and events page. I'll make a note of myself to do that. So I'll put on the news and events page a link so that you can find the Cancer Research Institute trial, Cancer Research Institute information. And so, Eric, did they tell you what the two trials in the Bay Area were, or not?
No, he didn't. It said all the information is supposed to be in my inbox waiting for me right now.
Okay, great. Well,
I will pass it on when I get it. But,
super. Anybody have any questions for Eric on the presentation?
Are they recorded anywhere that we can listen to them? Do you know, Eric?
I'm not sure. Rick said they were, but I don't know.
Well, I know that when they did the presentation last September, they eventually did make it available. That was one that they did in New York City at the Marriott or the Hyatt by Grand Central. And I remember, and in fact, I was just talking to John Shane about this, that Jed Wolchok was one of the presenters, and he was fantastic. He's the guy, he was Jim Allison's partner in developing ipilimumab, and he was the clinical partner. He was the physician, and he was just a great speaker. He was just a lot of fun, and he said he never thought he'd finish up on the side of a Manhattan Transit bus, because apparently there were last year a couple of buses running around advertising Memorial Sloan Kettering's clinic and gene testing and ipilimumab or something like that. I don't exactly, I forget exactly, but he said, he was quite thrilled when he saw himself on the side of a Manhattan Transit bus. But it was really good. Now, I don't know, I don't think these ones are being recorded, but I do know that they're doing the virtual presentation in September, because I already registered for that. So I'll put the links up, and I think about two or three call notices back, I put all the information in one of my call notice letters. Oh, and by the way, guys, whilst I'm talking about presentations, Richard Wassersug, who some of you may know, he's a scientist, a researcher in Vancouver, I think, and he's published a book on androgen deprivation therapy. And some of you might have met him at PCRI, or even have copies of his book. He's doing 4 or 5 sessions together with Jan Mannerite, who's now with Mike Scott at Prostate Cancer International, they're doing they're doing 4 virtual webinars. I think one of them in July is already full, but there are 3 more that he's doing. And Jake's going to put it on on our Facebook page. I will also put it on our news and events page, and I'm also going to mention it when I write the next newsletter at the weekend. So, and essentially it's for patients and caregivers, by the way. And it is really to help men on ADT deal with the side effects. So.
Great.
Eric, anything else for you? Eric?
Sorry, I'm madly digging through my garbage to find all the info on the conference so I could tell you. All right, let me tell you. Chicago, New York, Houston, and Tampa. October 21st in Houston. New York, September 23rd. Chicago, August 5th.
And then the virtual ones in September sometime.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't mention that here. Louis Lanier was the main speaker.
Right.
Panelists were Aaron Miller, Stanley Riddell, and Ezra Cohen. So
I've heard Louis
tell you about them.
Yeah, Louis Lanier is a very good speaker. I've heard him speak at UCSF before. So anything else for you, Eric?
No, that's it. Oh wait, yes, there was something else if we have time. I've had a lot of problem with pain, and I was taking quite a lot of Norco and Oxy, sort of supplementing the Norco with Oxy, and my psychiatrist was very upset that nobody was prescribing properly for me. And so the next time I saw my oncologist, I complained, and they put me on morphine sulfate ER twice a day, and that made quite a bit of difference. I still was getting breakthrough pain, so now they've changed it to 3 times a day. It's very effective when it works, but when it wears off, it's mind-numbing pain. So, anyway, it was the psychiatrist that insisted I go to 3 a day too. So he's been very helpful for me. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that it seems like this extended release is doing the trick. And do you have an appointment set up yet with the palliative care clinic at UCSF?
Well, no, I don't. I was waiting to see, how effective the extended release was going to be. And, since it's pretty much solving my problems, I wasn't planning on seeing them. Okay. Do you think I should anyway?
I don't see why it doesn't hurt, especially if you can get to see PJ. You like him a lot, and talk to him about it and see what else is new, and they may have some other ideas. I mean, it's your call, but I mean, I know that, you were trying to get that extended release for a long time and you couldn't get it.
Yes.
And for those others of you who are wrestling with pain, I think Thibaut just dropped off the call, but I'll try and remember to mention it to him again. But, think about these extended release options. So I've suggested it to others too. Okay.
Yeah, so
sorry, I was just going to say, Eric, at the Cancer Research Institute conference, did you say there really wasn't very much of relevance to prostate cancer then?
Well, they didn't have their breakout sessions did not have anything relevant to prostate cancer. They had gastrointestinal, head and neck, and lung. Those were the 3 breakout sessions.
Right.
And then the morning was, teaching everybody about how immunotherapy works, which many of us already have studied that. And so it was a little redundant. The panel was, was good. People asked good questions. They had people raise their hands of how many people in the audience had participated in a trial, and there were maybe 10 of us out of 150. So they were surprised at how few people had participated in any trials. Another thing that was disturbing to me was that half the people who signed up did not come. So,
how many people were there roughly?
150.
It's still a good turnout, but Louis.
Oh, yeah, it was. Go ahead.
Louis Lanier, by the way, is Larry Fong's partner. Some of you may know the name Larry Fong. He's a good friend of Answer Cancer, really good friend of Answer Cancer. He's on our advisory board. And Louis Lanier is the co-chair or the co-director with him of the new oncoimmunology clinic at UCSF that got the $50 million from Sean Parker. So.
Yeah, I was surprised that they didn't mention Dr. Fong, and they were giving Lanier's titles, and I thought, gee, I thought that was Larry Fong, but obviously since it's co-chairing, that makes sense.
Right. Okay, let's keep moving here, and we've still got to hit John Schofield, Larry Fish, and Jeff Ledoux. John Schofield, tell us a little bit about how your journey's going.
Sure. Yeah. Should I provide any background since I'm not on very often?
Why not? Just a little bit.
Very quick. Yeah. I'm now 56. I was diagnosed at 50. Had 2 out of 14 cores, Gleason 8, and sort of made the mistake of trying a sort of an alternative therapy, this what thing called hyperthermia in Germany. That was in 2012, and that was followed by 8 months of ADT. Anyway, I'm had a recurrent, and I'm now back on ADT again, and I'm looking at radiation therapy, likely later this summer if all goes according to plan. It'll be HDR brachytherapy and external beam radiation for, I think, something like 5 weeks. My last MRI, which I think was the end of last year, was showed a suspect lymph node, which was about 0.9 centimeters, and then I have a tumor on the right side, which is, I think it was a 28 by 15 millimeters, I believe. I started ADT back in April, the 30 days of Casodex, and followed by just Lupron, and seem to be tolerating it reasonably well. But I won't find. I have a PSA next week, and then I'm meeting with my oncologist again, radiation oncologist, on July 26th. So I'll find out then, I guess, whether it's working. But so that's where things stand right now.
When did you go back on ADT, John?
Back in April. It took quite a long time. I was seeing Dr. Klotz, who you know of, starting back in August of, I think, last year, and was looking at surgery, and then I decided against it. I had been turned down for HDR brachytherapy at Sunnybrook Hospital here in Toronto, and but then at Princess Margaret there was a radiation oncologist who said if I really didn't want surgery, they would do. They were at Sunnybrook. They were concerned because I had had this hyperthermia treatment in Germany. They were concerned about the about worse side effects from HDR brachytherapy. So they didn't want to do it there. But this radiation oncologist at Princess Margaret was willing to do it if I really didn't want to have surgery. So
what's his name?
It's a woman by the name of Dr. Joelle Helou, Helou.
Okay. And does she have good experience with prostate cancer?
I believe she's not super experienced, but you know, she has access to a lot of experience, of course, at Princess Margaret. But yeah, I wouldn't mind if she was a little more seasoned. But yeah, but then I couldn't really, you know, I thought HDR brachytherapy was a better option. Yeah, so I decided to go with that.
And then, John, what was your PSA when you started back? What level was it when you started back on ADT, and what's it done since you went on ADT?
The last reading was at like 38, and I haven't had really that was back in, well, that was around the time I think I started. That might have been
February. I have a note that 38 was in February.
Yeah, that's right. That's when I was still seeing Dr. Klotz, and yeah, so I haven't really had it checked since. As I say, I've got one coming up next week. Haven't had it checked since then.
Well,
so yeah.
You haven't had it checked since you went back on the ADT?
No, this will be the first. I guess they wanted the Lupron shot was in April 12th, and I guess they wanted me to, you know, wait the 3 months. I guess I'll be having another one coming up soon, I guess.
Well, I mean,
so for some reason
there's no good reason
wanted to wait
3 months. You know, you probably need to make sure that it's working. It's good to know if it's working or it isn't working.
Yeah.
It's also good to monitor your testosterone. Do you know what your testosterone was before you had your first ADT shot?
I don't. No, I don't actually.
Okay, well, again, we always suggest to men they know, so they know where their baseline was. If they want to come back up, if they want to do intermittent like Len or what have you, at least they know where they got to. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had been doing that, and but I don't think for in the last PSA they checked testosterone. So yeah, that should have been done.
How are you?
I should have.
How are you feeling on the ADT? Are you noticing any side effects yet?
Well, of course, zero libido. You know, no erectile functioning or anything. Occasional sort of, but overall though, it's not too bad. It's mild, you know, some hot flashes, but they're relatively mild. Sometimes I feel some fatigue, but it's not too bad, and I'm trying to maintain some exercise. What else? That's probably most of it.
Are you hungry all the time? Are you putting any fluid weight? You gaining weight?
It's pretty stable. I might have gained just a slight amount, but then I can probably stand to gain some anyway.
Okay.
But yeah. So not a whole lot there.
Okay, but at least it sounds like it from some of these side effects. At least it sounds like it's driving your testosterone down, which is what it's supposed to do.
Right. Yeah, and I think the plan, Dr. Helou was talking in terms of, you know, at least 2 or 3 years on ADT. So
right.
Yeah, and then I had asked her because I through the S2 group on Inspire.com, I had connected with a fellow who had been treated by Dr. Scholl's clinic, and he had sort of a similar background to mine, and there they kind of throw everything but the kitchen sink at you. He was even on early chemo, but they also gave him low dose Levitra to keep blood, I guess, going to the penis. I had asked my doctor if for low dose Levitra, she gave me Cialis, and it caused achy legs. I was getting some bad aches in my legs, and so I'd like to try Levitra instead. She seemed kind of skeptical about whether it really makes any difference, but yeah, if I have ever any hope of maybe regaining erectile functioning, perhaps it might help. I mean, if Dr. Scholl's recommends it, then I think that's a pretty good recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Peter is not on the call today. I'm sure he would have something to say about that, because he's been a patient at prostate oncology specialist for 2 or 3 years now.
Okay, right.
After that is. So the one thing before I just throw it open is, I would definitely suggest that you sign up for one of these Richard Wassersug sessions, especially since you're in Canada.
Yeah, I did. I've got his book. I attended a session at Princess Margaret. They're doing monthly sessions with a Dr. Andrew Matthew, who's they have a sort of a sexual health clinic at Princess Margaret.
Yeah.
I attended last month, but he had to leave, unfortunately, for some emergency. So I didn't get a chance to. He didn't give us the full presentation, but I'm hoping to go this month or next month.
Anyone else want to say or dialogue with John? No. Sorry, if you can't hear, I was just opening another window here, just to get a little bit more breeze.
Yeah.
Well, John, like I say, keep us posted. When do you think you might start the HDR brachy and IMRT?
Well, I'm hoping it'll be perhaps in August. I don't know how long I'll have to wait, but I'll be seeing the radiation oncologist again on the 26th of this month, and so I'm hoping it will be, I guess depending on how the ADT's going.
Well, make sure just make sure you exercise well whilst you're doing the IMRT.
Keep exercising, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Thanks.
Sure. All right.
And I'm sorry I'm not on very often. I go to a local support group here, so that's why I'm not on here that often. But anyway, I appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure, and as you know, you can always listen to our groups later. There's a lot of good information. Is your group for people with recurrent and advanced disease, or is it just a regular group?
They do have a group for recurrent and advanced, but they don't meet that frequently. I think they only meet every 2 or 3 months or something. So I go to the regular group, which meets twice a month. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Jeff Ledoux and then Larry Fish.
I'm here.
Good.
Let me see if I can make this short, sweet, and to the point. I went to see my oncologist on Wednesday. He said your PSA doubling rate is around 6.26 months. You're in a good place. Stay there. I did talk with him about Lupron versus Tegarelix. He said the two of them are identical. I said, yeah, but financially, I get a better break because insurance won't cover when I don't have prostate treatment, and Tegarelix is prostate treatment. If I go Lupron once every 3 months, there's 2 months there that cost me $50 a month or $25 a month. So that's $50 a quarter. So that's $200 a year. He said, that being the case, you're back on Tegarelix. So as far as that is concerned, I have been taking the low-dose Cialis. It is the one thing that will help because I do have sexual dysfunction. The only way I get around that is with the Trimix injections. So, and that Cialis seems to help maintaining the erection. Other than that, I feel good. I've gone ahead and started doing some bench push-ups. Plus, I'm doing sit-ups and leg lifts, and doing a little bit of that type of exercise in addition to the walking that I do. And I'll average anywhere from 2 to 6 miles a day for walking, and feeling good about it.
Excellent. So I just want to say, guys, that I don't know a lot about the ED and sexual issues. I'm not an expert in that. It's never really something that I've spent a lot of time studying. But one thing that was told to me when I was on Lupron, when I was on LHRH drugs, is that the actual physical function of the erection is not impaired by the LHRH drug. What the LHRH drug does is it just takes away your libido. And so, if you can still try and use some sort of chemical stimulant like Cialis or Levitra, whatever it is, and you can still try to get some sort of erection, if you think that you're going to, at some point, and hope you're going to come off of the drug, the LHRH drugs, it's a good idea to maintain during the period that you're on it, because it's going to make a big difference when you do come off of it. It's the old use it or lose it.
Just a point of information. I also have a VED, which I use as frequently as I can to maintain the health of that tissue.
Yep.
Sorry, what's that, Jeff? Could you repeat that, please?
A VED, it's a vacuum erection device.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And does that work?
Yeah, it does.
Huh.
It's also called a peenie pump.
Is it painful?
No, it just causes the blood to flow into the cavernosum, and it'll stay there as long as it's either in place or you use one of the they've got bands that you put around your penis, rings. As long as you use one of the rings, it'll hold there. And I recommend that you don't hold it for any longer than 30 minutes. But that's long enough.
Right. And where did you get that? Did you was that recommended to you by your doctor or what? Or
my urologist recommended it. The only problem that I had with it was Mother didn't like the popsicle. It gets cold.
Right.
As you can understand. But at that point, the urologist suggested the Trimix, and the Trimix does work.
Yeah, and that's an injection.
Yes.
Right.
It's a 30 gauge needle, which is nothing. Okay.
Right.
And you're using 0.1 to 0.3 cc's of the solution, and it's short, sweet, and to the point.
So,
And a point is good.
but
Right.
guys, if you're going to do that, be sure that you do the first dose. The first time you do it in the doctor's office.
Absolutely.
Because
Right.
everybody responds differently, and I've heard some horror stories about guys that took it home and they had really difficult results and finished up in the hospital.
Yes.
And so you just
Yeah.
have to be careful until you get used to what you're doing with it. But good.
Right. And Jeff, how long are you supposed to be on ADT?
For the rest of my life.
Okay.
There's
Right.
no talk of intermittent or holidays or anything else at this point, but we'll
Right.
see how that goes.
So,
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind going on the bipolar thing that Sam Densmead is doing.
right. So just as a quick word on that, because I know, John, you've asked a couple of people that most of the guys that are on this call have metastasis. Now,
Yes.
if they have high-risk disease as you do, and it's recurred as it has with you, but I'm not really clear about the size of the mets that they've seen, you still have the opportunity, like Len is doing, to do intermittent therapy, meaning that you'll go on and then you'll come off for a while, and then you'll go on and you'll come off. But once
Yes.
you start seeing significant metastasis, certainly if there's more than one spot, the likelihood is that you are probably never going to come off. And
Yes.
And the research that they've done suggests it's better that you stay on all the time. It's not essential, but it's better that you stay on all the time rather than going on and off with the intermittent. So
Okay.
that's
Right.
why most of the guys that you'll speak to on this call are probably on a ADT life protocol.
Yeah. Yeah.
So life.
Yeah.
I've got bone mets in hips, femurs, lumbar, cervical, and ribs. So.
Yes. Yeah.
But no
Right.
soft tissue.
Anybody want to talk to Jeff about it? Anything that he's discussed? The ED, the doubling times, anything else? Okay. Well, Jeff, you sound good.
I feel good.
Good.
I go out and mow my lawn, among other things.
Jeff, when do you do your walking typically?
I'll do it almost any time. I'll take my dog out and walk in the woods. And with my new knee, I can do that. I had a knee replacement here last July, and it's doing just fine, and I can get my dog out in the woods and out in the fields.
Fantastic.
So it's a good thing. Yeah, I think so.
That's great.
He thinks so too.
What about that hernia pain you were having?
Actually, it seems to have subsided, and it's not really being a bother at this point.
Good.
A little bit now and then, but not bad.
Good.
So it was not.
I was just wondering, with respect to exercise, has anybody tried rebounding? Because that's supposed to be quite even good for maintaining bone density and so on. You know, the little mini trampolines.
No, I haven't. I haven't thought about that.
It's supposed to have a lot of benefits.
It was suggested that I not do that with the new knee.
Right. Yeah, I just thought I'd throw it out there. Sorry.
I've heard the expression before, rebounding.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
My wife just said to me, she couldn't pick me up if I were to get one of those things and use it because she's got back issues.
That's fine. Maybe she'd be happy to leave you on the floor, Jeff. Who knows?
There you go. Maybe so.
Okay. All right, Larry Fish.
Here I am.
Okay.
Hello.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's really just an update. I saw Karen Audio, my oncologist, this morning, and my my PSA has been rising slow and steady for the last 5 months, I guess. So it was just getting around. We stopped Casodex a month ago, and we're just getting ready to make a decision about what to do next, which basically means enzalutamide or abiraterone. And I went in today thinking we were going to sort of think about those. And she had come up with, I'm sorry to say, I'm not going to remember some details, but she had a couple of trials that she thought I might look into. And I just want to bring up the details because some of the details might be a little interesting. And they were enzalutamide trials that were enzalutamide with a second agent. And I forgot the name that she said for what the enzalutamide was with. It's the exclusions were complex, and one of the exclusions were that your A1C had to be below a certain level. So my A1C is a little high for that.
Hey, what is A1C? Just tell everybody.
That's the diabetes marker.
Right.
That's it's like the general marker. It's not a specific fasting blood sugar, but it's the marker that evaluates the average, how your average sugar levels have been. It's not it's a marker for diabetes. So my A1C, and I fell into diabetes after about 3 months or 6 months of Lupron and weight gain. Low-level diabetes that got a little worse. I gained a little more weight, and I've been fighting that with exercise. And I went on metformin for diabetes. Now I have a lot of encouragement to really try to bring the A1C down a little to look into this trial. And one advantage is it'll pay for the enzalutamide.
Now, is this trial by any chance with a drug called telezaparib? Was that the drug?
It may. There were 2 trials, and we didn't go into them much. We sort of got sidetracked on a few other things, but the main point was that that may have been one of the trials, but it was something. It was with another drug, and it was a large trial that's open. It's phase 1. There were like 1,000 people going into it, and I should have written it down, but I was so focused on what am I going to do about the A1C and some issues about the relationship between my primary physician and my oncologist. I wanted her to push my primary to help me with some weight loss medication. I was looking into Qsymia or Osmia to try to help me. That helped me in the past. About 5 years ago, I fell into diabetes with weight gain and took this medication for 3-4 months, and I got out of the diabetic situation. So I wanted to do that again, and we got sidetracked into that.
What is your PSA right now? I have a number of 0.514, but what?
So now it's 0.54.
0.54. Sorry, I thought.
And now it's 0.62. 0.62.
Okay. So
that was a month ago. It went up. I stopped the Casodex, but it still went up a little to 0.62 in 5 weeks.
Okay. Did you talk to her at all about Provenge?
Sloan is not like Provenge, is not doing Provenge. We've talked about it. She thought I would have to go somewhere else for that. She's not a big fan of it. She suggested there was even something else I could think about. She didn't, I haven't gotten, would like to watch the PSA, I certainly want to look into it before I got over 3 or 4, if it's going to reach 3 and 4. And we sort of decided that if I couldn't get into this trial, or I didn't get on Zytiga or enzalutamide, or Xtandi before it reached 2, and see how that worked. And if that didn't, I might have to switch to a place where they were doing Provenge at this time. For some reason, she said Sloan right now is sort of frowning upon Provenge at the moment.
Provenge, but I like your French pronunciation makes it sound a lot sexier.
Oh, Provenge, yeah. Sorry.
Let us know what those trials are. I mean, I'm aware of one enzalutamide trial that's about to start pretty soon, but it's not that big, so that wouldn't have been one of them. It's with a PARP inhibitor. But just let us know what
I think the second one was with a PARP inhibitor.
Okay, well, that might be the one that I was working on a couple of weeks ago with the Pfizer guys. Let me.
I wasn't going to say anything because I was so embarrassed when I left that I thought, well, I've got to call. How come I didn't pay attention? I didn't write that down. We just got sidetracked.
Well,
on the A1C.
That's why we always tell you guys, either take somebody with you or record the sessions.
And I knew I wasn't going to talk.
Go on your own.
Well, it happened to me. What can I say?
So you can always record the session. The doctors don't mind. You listen to it later.
Oh man, I knew this was going to happen.
Okay.
But anyway,
you're good.
I wanted to let everyone know where I was at.
Well, thanks, but we're more interested to know what they're talking about to you in case anybody else is interested.
No, it's going to be interesting.
Let me throw out who else wants to talk to Larry about what he's not sure about.
I wondered if isn't metformin supposed to have also a beneficial effect for ADT, in preventing hormone resistance?
Yeah.
Is that something you want to stay on?
Yes, it's something I want to stay on. They say it can do that. Yeah. You can't. I don't know how you can tell when everything else is going on at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that something anyone on ADT should be taking as well? Do you think?
Well, it's not so much. It's not so much ADT that they know it has a beneficial effect as Zytiga is where they've seen it. But we generally feel that metformin is really good if you're on ADT. It's what Snuffy's been saying for years. I don't see where the downside is because if it's controlling your glucose, it's a good medicine. How long have you been on it, Larry?
About 6 months, let's say.
And have you
maybe 6 months?
And have you talked to her about changing? Have you talked to your doctor about possibly changing doses since your A1C going up?
I did, and I increased my dose a month and a half ago. Mm-hmm. I did do that. I went from 800 once a day, to 500 right now, from 500 twice a day to 500 3 times a day. Okay. 500.
What's believed to be the optimal dose for people, men on ADT?
I think it just depends on how you react, how high your sugar is and how you react. Right.
Because I don't have any history of diabetes, but and I have mentioned it in the past to various. Because you don't have diabetes, you're not overweight.
It's not expensive. I mean, it's not an expensive drug. I don't think. So
right.
I don't think it's.
No, it's not.
But what's the protocol for an insurance company for a doctor to prescribe? Just because it seems to work?
Well, it's tricky. There are a lot of the GU medoncs won't prescribe it. My belief is because it's associated with Snuffy. I'm not a big Snuffy fan, as most of you know, but I do think that there's some real benefits from metformin. And if there are no benefits, there are very few downs. There's very few little downside. I mean, the biggest issue that most people seem to have is that they get a runny tummy when they first start it. So you start off on about 500 and you work up to 1,000.
And take it with food.
And take it with food is a good point. But whatever it is, the downside is little. So what we often find is that it's easier to get it from your GP, your PCP or your GP, than it is to get it from your medical oncologist. And I don't get why the medical oncologists are reluctant to prescribe it. As somebody mentioned, I think John mentioned Schultz before. I mean, they don't have any problem prescribing it. But if you ask somebody like Chuck Ryan at UCSF, or I would say Howard Scher at Memorial Sloan Kettering, they're going to bust your chops. Did Dr. Audio prescribe it for you, or did you have to get it from your GP?
I got it from my primary.
Yeah. Did you ask her?
No, we went just when my sugar went up. She started it, and I asked her to increase it, and she agreed.
Yeah, I mean, you have a good reason that a lot of guys don't have. Although I will say, and it happened to me, that most of you who are on Lupron, on an LHRH drug, are likely to see an increase in your glucose because it's a known side effect of reducing the amount of testosterone in your body.
Yeah, I did have to push her because my blood sugar average only went up to something like 140, so it wasn't really high, and my A1C wasn't very high, but it was enough that she agreed that when I talked about the possible benefits, although she likes to fight everything, but she agreed for that. So it's something you can push your doctor to do.
Okay.
It also has an additional benefit of helping you lose a little bit of weight.
Right, that's supposed to happen.
Right.
I haven't seen that.
All right, guys. Well, look, it's 2 minutes after the witching hour now. Have we missed anybody? Has anybody come onto the call late? Anybody want to say anything that they forgot just before we hang up? Silence is golden.
Good call, Rick. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Oh, good one. Thank you, Rick.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Rick.
So
Rick.
I'll see you. I'll be talking to you next week from Vermont with Professor Bill at my side. So if I need to do a little research, Bill can moderate the call. So I'll talk to you. I'll speak to you all from Vermont on Monday night. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Thanks so much, Rick. Take care.
Good night.
Thanks, guys. All the best.
Good night.
Good night.